Hi everybody and welcome back to Murder at Bedtime. If you are a regular listener, you know by now that I think you are all awesome. And if this is your first time here, I hope I can persuade you to stay. Now normally this is a 15 to 20 minute true crime bedtime story, but today may be slightly different, as I have persuaded my lovely daughter Nikita to help me out. So anything could happen. So, good afternoon, Nikita. And are you looking forward to doing today's podcast with your old man?
I am very much so.
Good. I'm glad. Have you made yourself familiar with this case?
Yeah, roughly. I've got a good idea of it. So
Okay. So you reckon we're ready to go and we're going to crack on?
I hope so.
Okay. Well, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoy our first attempt at father and daughter podcast. And today we are going to do the story of the chocolate cream poisoner. Christiana paced her bedroom of the rooms her and her mother Anne now rented at 15 Marlborough Place, Brighton, a long way from the large house with servants they lived in Margate. But that was before her distinguished architect father was committed to the asylum. As she strode backwards and forwards across the room, wringing her hands and muttering to herself, "It must be tonight. It must be tonight." It had to be tonight, because the love of her life was out of town tonight, and his wife would be alone, except for the children and maybe their elderly lodger. This was the perfect time, she thought, to finally get rid of the one hurdle standing between her and her love finally being together. And it was what the good doctor wanted, wasn't it? To be free of his wife. She was sure he had definitely said that at some time, hadn't he? Determinedly, she put on her coat and bonnet, picked up the packet of chocolate cream she had bought earlier from the Maynard sweet shop in the town from the table, popped them into her pocket and left the house. She took the very short walk to the home of Dr. Charles Beard, his wife Emily, and 3 children on Grand Parade. She knocked on the door and the maid showed her into the drawing room.
Hello, Christiana, said Emily Beard, smiling. How nice to see you. Emily and Christiana had become good friends since her husband had started treating her for neuralgia, and they often popped in to see each other at one another's homes. And you too, my dear Emily, replied Christiana. I have bought some chocolates for you and the children. And before Emily Beard could react, Christiana had pushed one of the chocolates into her mouth. Straight away, Emily knew something wasn't right about the chocolate. It tasted bitter and metallic, and she quickly excused herself from the room and spat the chocolate out. After rinsing out her mouth and composing herself, Emily returned to the drawing room, but Christiana had disappeared, as had the bag of chocolate creams.
Later that night, Emily Beard suffered from terrible sickness and diarrhoea. She was certain it was the chocolate cream she had eaten, but whether Christiana had known there was something wrong with it, she really didn't know. But she decided to tell her husband on his return. The next day, Dr. Charles Beard returned home, and he had no doubt that it was Christiana Edmunds who had poisoned the chocolate. Although he couldn't tell his wife why, he was so certain it was her. To be honest, he now knew he should not have been so open with the woman. She was a patient, but he had become flattered by her attentions, and they talked together alone many times and corresponded by letter.
But then Christiana's behaviour changed. She became obsessive, sometimes writing to him up to 3 times a day. He always insisted the relationship was purely platonic, and he decided, due to the way she had begun to act and the scandal it would cause if it became known he had been having any sort of relationship with anyone apart from his wife, which would surely finish his career, that he had to distance himself from her, which of course had not gone down well with Miss Edmunds.
Which was why he was now convinced that she had tried to poison his wife. He knew Christiana was in love with him and viewed his wife as an obstacle in her way to him. He decided he must confront her and warn her against ever contacting him or his family again. And this he did. Christiana was flabbergasted vehemently denying that the act was in any way deliberate, and she herself had been taken ill after eating a chocolate from the same packet. So passionate was Christiana's denial that for a brief moment Charles Beard thought she may be telling the truth.
As contamination of food in Victorian Britain was rife at the time, with food adulteration as it was known, where harmful additives were added to food to keep down costs, which went unchecked in these times. But he soon came to his senses. He recalled using Maynard's sweet shop as a child and knew him to be a man with an unblemished reputation. He told his wife not to have anything more to do with Christina, but he didn't tell her the real reason, his reputation meaning everything to him.
Now, in Christina's mind, Dr. Beard was now ignoring her because he thought she had tried to poison his wife, which of course she had. But now she had to convince him she hadn't, so that he would come bounding back into her life. I would have thought the fact that he is pretty miffed that she had tried to off his missus rather than being upset she failed was some kind of sign. But anyway, with the way Christiana's mind worked, someone had to take the rap for Emily Beard's poisoning, and that someone was going to have to be John Maynard, the sweet shop owner.
But before we get into that, who was Christiana Edmunds and what may have caused her to act this way? Christiana was born in Margate into relative wealth in September 1828. Her father, William, was a well-known architect who designed many important buildings, including Margate Lighthouse. Before slowly declining into madness in 1843, being removed to an asylum, which of course changed the life of Christiana and her mother drastically.
The stigma in those days attached to a parent who had been committed into an asylum and the financial implications of the major breadwinner of the family being taken out of the family would have been hard on Christiana. They were by no means poor because William had made provisions for them, but the big house had to go and most of the furniture was auctioned off. By 1853, Christiana and her mother were living in rented rooms in Canterbury, and Christiana was beginning to act strangely.
Her mother sent her to London to see a doctor, where she was diagnosed with hysteria. This was sometimes so bad she would be temporarily paralysed down her left side. Her sister was also plagued by hysteria, and at the time her brother Arthur started to become angry and sombre, with violent outbursts the same as his father, and also started to have seizures. By 1860, Arthur's violent outbursts were so bad Anne had to once again take the heartbreaking decision to put a loved one in an asylum.
He would die there on the 11th of January 1866, and if that wasn't bad enough, on top of that, Christiana's sister Louisa had now tried to jump from a top floor window of her marital home, only being pulled back at the last second by a quick thinking maid. But unfortunately, Louisa would die not long after, when she collapsed outside her home on June the 28th, 1867. Her death was put down to heavy periods, but I would presume that this was some kind of hemorrhage in reality. She was only 36 years old.
So can we put Christiana's behaviour down to hereditary insanity? What happened now in her story would probably point to this. As we know by now, Christiana and Anne had now moved from Canterbury to Brighton and were once again living in rented rooms. So back to the story where Christiana has now decided that the only way back into the doctor's affections is to poison a load of people with chocolate creams from John Maynard's shop, and therefore framing him for the initial poisoning of Emily Beard.
And Dr. Beard, realising she did not poison his wife, which of course she had, falls to his knees, begging her forgiveness, and they carry on their relationship, whatever that was. Simple, makes sense to me anyway. So she sets about doing some practice runs. She firstly goes to Spring Hill in Brighton, where she offers a 13-year-old paperboy a bag of Maynard's chocolates. He, of course, accepts and eats the whole packet, apart from one, which he gives to his friend, who straight away spits it out, saying it tastes funny.
Consequently, the paperboy is hospitalised for a week, but makes a full recovery. But it doesn't make the papers, so Christiana again visits Spring Hill, where this time she gives the chocolates to a young girl.
3 days later, she actually goes to the girl's house under the guise of a health visitor to ask if anyone has been taken ill there. When the girl's mother explains that her daughter has been terribly ill after accepting chocolate creams from a lady and what she would do to that lady if she ever got her hands on her, Christina skedaddled sharpish. If only the little girl had opened the door to her and recognised her.
She decided she needed more strychnine and bigger doses. She skillfully managed to dupe her local chemist Isaac Garrett into giving her some, telling him it was to kill some annoying cats. That's it, hanger, I hear you all shouting, but apparently poisoning cats was not illegal in 1871. So now Christiana had replenished her poison and had a new plan. This plan involved hiring young boys, giving them a shilling and telling them to go into Maynard's sweet shop and buy 3 ounces of chocolate creams. When the boy returned from the shop with the chocolates, she would distract the boy, slip the bag into her pocket and pull out another, this time poisoned bag, and give them to the boy, telling him he had bought the wrong sweets and to take them back and exchange them, which John Maynard did, putting the returned chocolates back on the shelf.
Christina did this countless times, and I'm a bit surprised that John Maynard didn't think this was a tad suspicious. Anyway, it seems he didn't, because on the morning of the 12th of June 1821, Charles Miller, out on a stroll while on holiday with his family, stopped off at Maynard's to buy some chocolate creams and take them back to his lodgings. When he got there, he gave a chocolate to his 4-year-old nephew, Sidney, one to his brother, and ate a few himself. Later that day, he felt so unwell that a doctor was called. The doctor didn't think the chocolates were the cause, and as Charles Miller seemed to improve later in the day, Sidney had another sweet. But this time, within minutes of eating it, Sidney went into spasms.
This time, a different doctor, Dr. Rugg, attended and thought straight away that this was poison. He immediately applied to the nearest chemist for an emetic, but before it arrived, Sidney suffered one last convulsion and sadly died. At the subsequent inquest, even though it was proved there was strychnine in the chocolates, they could not fathom how the poison got into them. John Maynard was found blameless, and amazingly, a verdict of accidental death was recorded. Once again, Christiana's dastardly plan to make the sweet shop owner the fall guy had failed. Did this in any way deter her? Of course not. She went into overdrive. The chocolate shop poisonings continued.
On Thursday the 10th of August 1871, 6 people in the town received parcels including fruitcakes, sweets, fruit and other treats. Christina sent one to Emily Beard and to herself, presumably to shift any blame away from her. This made up Dr. Beard's mind. He now went to the police and told them of his suspicion that Christiana Edmunds had tried to poison his wife twice. He took all the letters that he had received from her, showing that she had an unstable mind. Having no other leads, the police decided to investigate. They found that the poisoned cakes had come down to Brighton from Victoria Station the same day as Christiana had travelled to Margate on business and would have travelled back on the same train from Victoria.
They decided to search her rooms and found the strychnine. They now thought that they had enough evidence to arrest and charge Christiana with the attempted murder of Emily Beard. Her trial started on the 24th of August 1871 at Brighton Police Court, but it was soon decided there was enough evidence to charge her with the murder of young Sidney Miller. And because it was felt she could not receive a fair trial because of all the publicity on this case in the local papers, the trial was switched to the Old Bailey in London and tried on the 15th and 16th of January 1872. With the letters from Dr. Beard, the strychnine in the house, the evidence from the chemist Isaac Garrett and from the boys who took back the sweets to Maynard's for her, she was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to hang.
But it had become pretty obvious that everything that had come out at the trial, her behaviour and her family's history of insanity, that she was not of sound mind. And the Home Office sent 2 experts, Dr. William Orange of Broadmoor Hospital for the Criminally Insane and Sir William Gull of Guy's Hospital, to visit Christiana and make a report on her mental health. They declared her insane, and after considering their report, the Home Secretary reduced her sentence to incarceration in Broadmoor, and she died there on September the 19th, 1907, aged 78. Okay, Keita, so firstly, what did you think of doing a podcast with your old man?
I thought it was fun. I thought it was quite hard, actually, because I'm not good at being on camera. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
You said when we came off that we didn't half look serious. Now, when people see the outtakes, they're going to realise that it wasn't as serious as it looked, was it?
And
but
it's nothing. It's nothing to do with the story. It's just
us.
The story's sad, and that our laughter does not reflect that.
Yeah. So with that, back to the story.
Yeah.
What did we actually... I mean, in my opinion, I found it very hard. And I mean, she was unwell mentally.
Yeah.
Because I found part of her plan was very clever, but her logic was mad.
Yeah, clever for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Like I was just saying to you a minute ago, I think it's sad that what she initially set out to do, she didn't succeed. And by trying to cover that up, a young boy died and she still got sent away. So she didn't really win out of any of it, did she?
No, that's what I mean. I mean, I think the whole... everything defies logic, doesn't it? You know, and also, you know, because the actual plan of where she gets the boys to swap the sweets is very clever.
Yeah, it is clever.
And also, if I'd gone into it about the chemist, the way she dupes the chemist to give another strychnine is very, very clever as well. You know, but as I say, I do feel sorry for the 4-year-old boy Sydney and his family.
Yeah.
But I think I feel sorry for Christiana as well, because, you know, there was in her family, there was problems, big problems all the way through. And her mum's family were, you know, about the same.
Yeah, and the problem is because of the time that it was, people with mental health problems weren't getting the right help that they needed.
No.
So it was just going completely unnoticed. And unfortunately, this was the result of her not receiving the help that she needed.
So do we think that the actual sentence was the right one?
Yeah, I think it would have been a shame if she was sentenced to death.
Yeah.
Knowing that she was mentally unwell.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that was the right thing to do in the end.
No, exactly. I think that too. So anyway, we've had a blast, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've had so much fun. If you enjoyed this podcast, a very different one to normal, with, I'm afraid, a lot of waffle. I can't say no, waffle free, no frills, not today. Would you please, give it a rate and a review, or maybe you won't. But even if you give it 1 star, that counts as 1 star. So anyway, from me, I've had a blast doing this with my daughter. Always wanted to. Always love her company. And I wish her a lot of luck in the new studio that she's going to with her tattooing in a few weeks' time. So good luck, Nikita.
Thank you.
And you've enjoyed it?
Yes, I have. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Murder at Bedtime. If you're a regular listener, you know by now that I think you're all awesome. And if this is your first time here, I hope I can persuade you to stay. This is a waffle-free, no-frills, 15 to 20-minute true crime bedtime story, and I don't believe I've got the right script. Oh, jeez.
But then Christiana's behaviour... But then Christiana's... Oh my God.
I know sometimes, doesn't it? Right.
So can we put Christiana's behaviour down to her... Oh! what?
But you wish I'd said the hereditary insanity.
So can we put Christiana's behaviour down to her hereditary?
So can we put Christiana's behaviour down to hereditary insanity?
Stop it!
No, right. I'm all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So can we put Christiana's behaviour down to hereditary? You're laughing. I can see. Your shoulders. I can see your shoulders.
Oh, God.
So can we put Christiana's behaviour down to her hereditary?
Oh, my God, what's happening?
Right, no, I think we're all right.
Yeah, this is it.
So can we put Christiana's behaviour down to hereditary? Is it hereditary?
Oh, my God, and we're talking about insanity as well, which is terrible.
Consequently, the paper boy is hospitalised. 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 Not hospitalised. Hospitalised. Consequently, the paper boy is
Sorry, you're
hospitalised.
going to have to start again. Okay, not again, not again.
The paper boy went into hospital for a week. Consequently, the paper boy had to go into hospital. Right, no, I'm going to do it.
Consequently, the paper boy is hospitalised for a week, but makes a full recovery.
When the girl's mother explains that her daughter has been terribly ill after accepting
Oh my God, that's not even a hard word. That he had to distance himself from her, which of course had not gone down well with Miss Edmunds.
1907, age 78. So what do you think of that, Nikita?
I don't know.
It's like a comedy club.
Oh, dear.
What do I think of it?